This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
You're tuning into the X Factor of Safety. I'm your host, Pedro Maciel. Here at the X Factor of Safety, we like to discuss industry topics, both safety and not safety. We dive into daily lives of safety pros and various industry leaders, digging deep and finding out what their X Factor is. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the loved by some, hated by many JSA, also known as Pre-Task Plan, JHA, Hazard Analysis. You get the idea. What is it? What is a JSA? What is a Pre-Task Plan? What is a JHA? JSA is a Job Safety Analysis. JHA stands for Job Hazard Analysis. PTP stands for Pre-Task Plan. They all go together. They all serve it very different names, but they all serve one purpose, and it's pre-planning for your everyday tasks. Why do we use them? Well, having tasks that you do on a daily basis inside the work zone, inside the workplace, requires, in a sense, a step-by-step document that tells me how to do my task that I'm fixing to do safely. And it's ever so changing. You know, it's a living, breathing, important piece of the puzzle to our everyday crafts and businesses and trades. Why is this document so important, though? Well, here we go. I'm going to explain it. I'm going to explain why this document is important. Some people go really in-depth with JSAs, JHAs, PTPs, and rightfully so. The more detail you have, the better off you will be, the better off your workforce is going to be. So again, why is it important? Well, let me explain. Have you ever had a new employee that has experience in his craft or her craft, but no experience at your facility? They're brand new to you. They're brand new to your site. Well, this is where the handy dandy notebook of JSAs or pre-task plans, come in handy. This is where they're gonna help you. Again, it has a detailed step-by-step process to complete a certain task. So say the new employee is gonna be a machine operator. That machine, maybe he's ran a different type of machine, does the same thing, but not the machine at your site, not the machine at your workplace. So what do? We break out the handy dandy notebook of JSAs, and we take him or her to the machine, and we go over the JSA. We go over the pre-task plan. So what are we going over? Well, the pre-task plan, and maybe I jumped ahead of myself. Okay, there's different parts to a JSA. So the first part, and the way I usually write them, is the first part is, what are you going to do? Give me the step-by-step process of what you are going to do. I need to understand where your mentality is at, when I'm talking to my workforce, on how they plan to attack this task that they're fixing to accomplish. How are they going to, erect steel? How are they going to excavate? What's the process that they're fixing to do it in? I use that, and I tell everybody, foreman, general foreman, working foreman, that they're a part of it. But then I also get input from the individuals that are going to be actually doing the task. Hey, how are you going to do it? Explain to me how you're going to put this bolt onto this piece of steel. And I get detailed. Sometimes more detail for critical type of activities is better because it lines out the expectation. Okay, here is how you're going to do it step by step. So first you list out the steps. Once you have those steps in place, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many steps it takes to complete that task, that's how many steps it takes. After you complete those steps, after you've identified each step in the process, now the next section over in the JSA, or the JHA, or the pre-task plan. What could happen? What are the hazards associated with each and every task? And a lot of times I've seen some very good JSAs. It describes each and every hazard. It's numbered or lettered, however you feel like doing it. But the more detail and the more information you can give your workforce for them to be safe, the better you will be. The better they're going to understand, that we do care about their well-being. We do care about how, they go home at the end of the day. So the hazards. What's the hazards associated with pinch points, struck by, materials falling, working at height, slip, trips, and falls, excavations, confined space entry, crane operations, mobile equipment, ergonomics, lifting techniques, and the list goes on and on. There's a bunch of hazards depending on, the task at hand. So, and then my favorite part that comes after that, how are we going to eliminate or mitigate them? Again, eliminate. Every safety pro wants to eliminate hazards. If we can, wave our magic safety wand and say, bam, all hazards are eliminated, we wouldn't have any accidents. But that's not the case. We're not safety fairies. But we try to be as much as possible. And how? Our safety wand, or our magic handy dandy notebook of JSAs. Keeping those handy. And then, like I said, they're a living document that ends up changing when the task has to change, or when there's introduction of a new process. So with that being said, my favorite part, finding out how to eliminate or mitigate the hazard. And where you're going to get the best information from is your operators or your personnel that's going to be doing the task. They're the ones that are going to tell you the best way to eliminate a hazard, the best way to mitigate it. And then obviously we come in and, we put our spin on it and our 2 cents, and, making sure we're in compliance, making sure we're holding those OSHA standards, and making sure everybody is on the same page, but still getting that feedback from your workforce. Because then in return, getting that feedback, what's going to end up happening is, guess what? They know they helped you come up with the solution on how to keep people safe, and they take pride in that. And then they start to embrace the safety culture. They start to embrace being safe and telling other people to be safe. So it's definitely a big thing to have good JSA training whenever you are going into looking at the JSAs. But bringing value to our workforce. Now, you can't just hand your workforce or your new employees or, somebody that comes in, new hires, new to your job site. Here's a piece of paper. This is your JSA. Sign it, put it in a binder, and then off to work they go. You can't do that. That's bringing no value to your team, to your workforce, and to somebody that you want to listen and understand safety. It's not going to work. So what I like to do, this is my method. Now, again, everybody has different methods of training. Everybody has different metas and methods of, methodologies of how they, get the information to their personnel. Some people are visual learners. Some people can read a JSA and say, okay, I got it. Some people need to be hands-on. So I like to do a little bit of all three. I like to make sure they understand what they read. If they need it translated, for our Spanish-speaking employees, then I have a JSA that's in Spanish. Definitely have to make sure that you have that available, so that way they can understand in their native tongue and understand what they're coming in contact with. So after they read the JSA or the pre-task plan, then what I end up doing is going to wherever they will be working at it, whether it's, laying down rebar, whether it's working on a machine, driving a forklift, I go to that machine or that area that they'll be working in and let them go through each and every step of the JSA and then give me their feedback. And then it also allows me, while they're doing it, to observe and analyze the behaviors that they have. You might have somebody that has 10 years worth of experience. Great. You think he's going to know how to, or her, he or she is going to know how to run that piece of machinery. But then you start to analyze and observe their behavior. And after, 15, 20 minutes, for the last 10 years, they've been doing it wrong. Or not that they've been doing it wrong. They've gotten trained improperly. They have not received good training. And I'm not knocking trainers from 10 years ago, but if they are and use bad judgment, unsafe behavior, then it's just gonna, compile and compile and keep going, and it has to stop. Where do we change? So it has to stop. It has to change. So bring them value. Bring them value by properly training them on JSAs, properly making sure they understand, they know how to execute what you have on that piece of paper efficiently, effectively, and safely. So next time you're out in your shop, next time you're out in the workplace, next time you are on your job site, go check out the JSA binder. If you don't have one, hey, make one. You just got to start somewhere. And it's a good way to, archive all of your JSAs and pre-task plans and have something readily available. Like before, I worked in a steel fabrication shop. So again, steel fabrication, anybody that's in the steel fabrication industry knows it's repetitive. You have a lot of the same attributes with each and every task. Now, some people weld differently. Some people handle material differently. But for the most part, everything that's happening inside a structural steel shop is the same. The machine picks up the material. It brings it over to the cutter. Then the cutter picks it up and brings it over to the table. Then the table ends up sliding it over. Then we have to pick it up with the crane, put it onto the skids, weld, grind, all types of stuff. So I had this big binder with a bunch of JSAs in it, and they were specific to the task and to the type of worker that we had. Machine operator, welder, fitter, laborer, forklift operator, painter, even the janitor. Even the janitor had one. Because the janitor, he's cleaning up, he's mixing chemicals. Even on that, while he's, mixing chemicals, you don't want him to mix, obviously, bleach and Windex, because then, he'll be passed out in the bathroom and then an incident on our hands. And that's what we want to prevent. So, make one. If you've never made one before, try it out. Pick something simple to start off with. And then as time progresses, you get better and better, and you can go look at what somebody is doing, and you can kind of get a mental JSA and be able to translate it into, whatever document your employer or your work site is using. But one of the big things that I want to do is bring value to you guys. So the biggest thing out of this episode, try it at home. Now, granted, I'm a safety professional, and I know a lot of safety professionals, have JSAs or step-by-step processes at their work site, but do we have them at home? Honestly, by show of hands, Who has them at home? I do, but in my mind. Mentally, I have a mental JSA for everything that I end up doing. But just think about it. So the next time you go to grill out in your backyard, you have a cookout. Of course, all my backyard grilling experts gonna get a whoop whoop. But you're at home, right? You're fixing to cook out, throw a brisket on. You're fixing to cook up some steaks or hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever it may be. And you start going through your steps. Ask yourself the questions. What could go wrong? How could I get hurt if I skip a step? What is the step-by-step process that I'm going to start to grill? How am I going to season the meat? How am I going to cut the meat? Right? All those things, granted, we already know. We've done it for so many years. Again, if you're at home, make sure that you're safe. Make sure that your family's safe. Right? Having an open flame. Are there kids running around? Is it somebody's birthday party? Is it a gender reveal party that you're going to have other kids and other people that are around? Are we making sure that everybody else around us is safe? So again, that mental pre-task plan or that mental JSA that you have for what you do at home, what you do when you go out shopping with the family, being aware of surroundings, finding all the exits, looking at where the fire extinguisher in case a fire happens at a restaurant, those types of things. Because safety doesn't stop at the workplace. We have to be safe when we're driving on the highway. We have to be safe when we're at home doing the honey-do list. So again, being proactive instead of reactive will definitely help not only your workforce, but you at home. Well, we're at the end of our show. We want to thank you for lending us your ears for just a little bit. We hope you were able to get a bit of value out of this episode. We would love to hear from you, so go check us out on the website, thexfactorofsafety.com. Send us an email at xfactorofsafety@gmail.com. You can even give us a call or send us a text message over to our X Factor hotline at 434-381-0723. If you have thoughts or ideas for the show or would like to be featured on the show, reach out and we'll make it happen. So before I go, ask yourself one question. What is your X Factor? Until next time.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.